They get a bit demotivated each half meter they go. So, and I do too. So, that's something that we're going to be playing with going into 2022. Is resetting the farm more to match that kind of human scale. Because we got the rest of the kit, we got broad forks, rake, hose, landscape rakes, all the rest of it. We plant by hand, everything's transplanted by hand. We sow everything by hand. This is the only piece right now that we're not really human scale. Sorry. Oh yes, you can take photos. We'll take all photos you like. Yeah, and this is mostly just like irrigation and field store. Tunnels behind you. We've got 6 of these tunnels. Fractured by Clovis. They don't do these anymore. They just do like awnings and stuff for outside of schools and offices and things. But they're rounded all the way to the bottom. So that's a bit of creates a real problem. And you'll see on the inside, right where that like aluminum like framing goes, there's a drip, and that just drips. So our outside beds are constantly wet because of that design. But they are nice to have. They're 30 meters by 8.2 meters. We've got 6 of them, year-round production. There's a main season crop rotation in here of productive legume to solanaceae to cucurbit solanaceae to a combo of legume and solanaceae. And then we have a lettuce tunnel. But they're used year-round. We've got an automated irrigation system. Our irrigation is from the borehole at the main farm, and it's brought up to a 15,000 liter tank, but we also have rain fed off the roofs into that tank. And then we goes through the pump. We have a pressure chamber vessel, keeps it at 3 bar, so everything on site is at a 3 bar pressure level, and then we run from there. Right now it's winterized, so I've turned the whole system off. We just have mains from the farm on 1 tap, but in season that's what we're doing in terms of irrigation. Summer we're dropping, we just use simple baling twine or jute twine, whatever it is. We don't have any fancy tomahawks or tomato roller systems, anything like that. But we grow on a double liter tomato system. 1 plant, we choose 2 liters, and then we just simply bury and then trellis wrap with the plant. Whether it's aubergines, we do it for sweet peppers, chilies as well. So those get put up in the winter, and then they just drop straight back down in the summer. In the summer, we change irrigation system. We go MyPex, so we do use MyPex for weed control and for prevention of evaporation of irrigation. So we stick on irrigation spike lines that go right onto the root system. So those switch out, those big black rolls, and then the 4-line systems get hung up for most of the summer production crops. Mesh, fleece, so we're certified organic. Those are pretty much our 2, mostly what we're doing for pest control, physical barriers. So EnviroMesh. Rabbits is our biggest kind of larger pest, if you will. So that's a RAPPA, R-A-P-P-A is the manufacturer of that fencing system. They do all kinds of movable fencing systems for sheep and everything else. And then it's just on a solar panel, Energizer, and off a leisure battery. Really easy to set up. And they're about 50 to 60 quid for a 50 meter length of that. So that's one defense. The site has deer fence and rabbit fence, but over the years they've gotten through. So those are our main things. Then we use EnviroMesh for rabbits as well, but also for any protection, mostly against cabbage moth. Cabbage white moth is probably our biggest pest in season, aside from snails and slugs. But everybody north of Manchester deals with snails and slugs, I think. We don't really do much for them. We may do 1 application a year, if that. Particularly on Chinese cabbage, you can see it's kind of getting beaten up of ferric phosphate. So we'll put in a show cause with Soil Association for us, we say 25% decrease in marketable value. Then we'll put it into the certification officer and just say, right, we're going to do an application of slug pellets. In the last 15 months, we've only done 1 application on 2 beds. So I think we're getting pretty good at getting away from that technique. Because we've got pretty good habitat. There's a beck at the bottom. We don't have a pond. That's kind of next in the plans, is to get a pond somewhere in the middle of the site to help with slug control and snail control.
So you don't have frogs and hedgehogs at the moment?
We do, because we don't really have that much slug and snail damage, to be honest. Like, that's the only crop I've put it on in 15 months. It's just this Chinese cabbage, and it's just 2 or 3 beds.
We actually had a nesting hedgehogs over in
Yeah.
Ireland.
So I think we've got pretty good predator activity. So I'm not too worried about it. Otherwise, we've not done any type of organic approved pesticide application on site. Yeah. So, shall we keep going? It's 400 grams in a bag. It's how many? We need 40 kilos. Go. Come back, drop. There'll be a team packing in here. Everything gets kind of harvested in these crates below us. Goes in clean crates. We've got a big, essentially, imagine the back of a small HGV, like a freight container that has been converted to a chiller up at the main farm. So stuff gets here first, and then we take it up there, and it sits there until Thursday, when volunteers go up and pack the crop share in the bags on a Thursday. We try to keep the system as simple as possible, so we don't, like I said, it's a single bag, no customization, not small, medium, large. And in terms of bags and boxes, we basically have a system where people come, take the bag. We have these jute bags, these kind of wax-lined jute bags. So they take the bag out of the chiller and then decant, take out their vegetables and put it in a bag, and the bag stays. That way we're not trying to barcode and figure out who's got which box and collecting boxes and all the rest of the faff of it. So that's how our system works. Works pretty well, I think. Yeah.
How many subscribers do you have?
110. 110 at the moment, yeah. It's fluctuated all the way down to like 55 a few years ago. But right now we're 110. And we're going to jump to probably 125 in March. We think the space can probably support about 150. That's wholesale 2025, and the rest comes from the crop shares. At the moment.
So how far do the furthest people come to fit? I mean, what sort of radius do people
Yeah,
come from?
probably as far as Ulverston, and mainly that's because we have the ideal travel location. Everybody's coming. If you live in South Lakes, you're coming by 11th roundabout, aren't you? So even if you're going to work, maybe you work in Crooklands or something, and you live in Ulverston, that's really great to have on site. So, and then if we have any excess tomato chutney, whatever it is, we do a few thousand pounds in preserve sales a year as well. We had a contract with Hawkshead Relish this year, so we grew beetroot, pickle, and pickled beetroot, pickled onion, and pickled shallots. So we made it, and then they kind of co-branded it with us. And so there's going to be a Christmas release of Hawkshead Growing Well relishes. So that'll be nice. So that's a really nice facility to have as well, and knows that it puts less pressure on us to like have all this produce around and say, right, we got to find a way to utilize this. They can take a lot of it. That's good.
How much the crossover is growing as it grows? They're distributing the same.
Yeah. Junk.
This will start
In
junk.
terms of, you might as well just throw it straight in the bin. I mean, we're getting complaints 2-3 days, salad, it's gone. I mean, just completely gone to muck. So,
The bag's gone to muck in that time.
yeah, they just dissolve and they can't preserve the vegetables long enough. So unfortunately, yeah, we are still on Halloween bags. And the main reason is to get the nice new Riverford bags, you need like 80,000 minimum order. And so great, we'll order 80,000 because for us our cash flow works quite differently than a lot of organizations, a lot of other farms. But then they got shelf life of like 4 to 6 months. So we can't get to 80,000 bags in 6 months. So then it's like, right, we've talked to Neil a bit and Lynn Barnes at Vista Veg about trying to go in, split it out, but yeah, there's just all these stupid little barriers that keep getting in our way. So they have a really nice product. Those bags are really great. The new Riverford, I think Texas, I can't remember the name of the manufacturer they work with. And that's what a lot of people are buying, that either have bigger schemes or can have a lot of farms close together they can start splitting out.
Yeah.
So what we do still is use polythene, and we have a sealer. We have 2 sealers and we seal. And I mean, I guess our trade-off is we can do lettuce and salad mix, and it's 2 weeks in the fridge.
Yeah.
And
We have some people who won't pick it up for like 5 or 6 days later, and it's still pretty good condition. So
the other alternative we thought about is trying to move to like reusable containers somehow. But right now we're pretty low on the risk of environmental health office. And I don't really want to move anywhere further that way. We're considered a private producer, low risk, no meat, none of that, very little storage. So as soon as you start introducing reuse of something in washing, especially on salad mix, that's where they're going to start coming and saying, right, we're going to do spot checks and bacterial testing and things like that. So yeah, it's a hard one, I think. So,
Have you got
but,
any of your dew pads down here? We can see?
there's one in the office. Yeah, I'll show you. There's one in my office. There's one up here, I think.
Also, if you have any suggestions, because this is a dilemma, right? We don't
Yeah,
know
yeah,
use
it
this,
is, exactly.
So if anyone's got any ideas later on, we'd like.
Show you. We'll do this all together as one thing. I think it's easier. About how we soil block. That was kind of like part 2 of the tour, but we'll just do it now. So basically, we use soil blocks. We've used more than gold seed and cutting compost for basically the last 15 years, and we still use it. It's a Soil Association approved product. It's not peat free. It's not virgin peat. It's basically they're dredging the water utility reservoirs, and this is the byproduct. We use it mainly because it's a nice consistency and texture for soil blocking. All right, we've struggled to find alternatives, so we've played a bit with Dale Foot and the wool compost. The other one that's really good is Klossman, but it's coming from Germany. So we said, right, well, we're just going to stick with this. So what we do is, depending on the moisture content of the pallet when it comes, we'll cook up a recipe. Bag gets cut, opened, straight in here. Usually it's maybe 5 liters to a bag. 5 or 10 minutes in here, and then we just go straight on the ground. That's actually probably a bit dry. That's probably a bit dry, but that's okay. Just to give you an idea. So, is anybody familiar with these? Soil blocks, yeah. Anybody else use them? Oh, great. What's your magic? Any magic you've got to impart on us?
What, on getting a good block?
Yeah.
We mix the peat mix with our seed compost. I don't know whether the peat alternative more than gold.
Right.
And then quite wet.
Yeah,
I mean,
wet. So
quite
that's
wet.
probably too dry. So the way I usually tell is when we go in blocks. So this has got 20 3.5 centimeter by 3.5 centimeter blocks, right? And we then punch out 6 by 20, and we get 120 on these old estate agent signs, and that's our trade. So how we typically would tell is when you punch, and I really recommend you working on a hard surface that doesn't move. We used to do this in plastic trays, and the trays is moving and everything's moving. This is exactly what you want. And the issue you can see already, if I kick some of this over, is that you should be able to punch that and you'll see water come up. So that's probably too dry already on that, I think. And we'll punch one out. It's really easy. You just set them down. Get all the excess scraped off the bottom. Yeah, too dry. And there you go. So what we'll do is you might add some more water to this mix and just kind of mix it around a bit. But really, what we're after is when you mix that. Oh no! Yeah, you got one. You can go get one. Sorry, Mark. But that water should come up. And so what we do then is you've got 120 on a tray, and then they'll go into the seed shed next door. There'll be sowing taking place in there. You know, they already come with the dib in the top, so we're sowing whatever. If it's 1 seed or 3 seeds, we're aiming for that. And then we just lightly sieve over with the seed compost in a riddle. And we just do a light sieving. And then it goes into we have a hot box, which I'll open it up and show you. It stays in a hot box for a day or 2, and then straight out into the propagation part of the tunnel. So you could feel these if you want. Everybody can. You're welcome to have a go. We got multiple blockers later on. We'll just leave this set up. That's on the edge of what I would say is probably not moist enough. So we don't water, right? So the reason we do it, A, is they're easier to block if they're moist, and then secondly, we don't overhead water after we've sown or before we've sown. So we literally have the tray, go straight into the shed. We're sowing them. covering, then into the hot box. Come out of the hot box after a day or two. You might do a light water. You might just wait another 2 days, and then we'll water for the first time overhead in the pot mix. And we find that moisture is plenty enough for 2 to 3 days. If something's slow to germinate that's in the hot box, we'll just take water sprayers and we'll just go in and hand spray to bring up the moisture. That's pretty good. So there's no real water coming out of that, so I know that's quite dry. There should be water leaching all the way out of my knuckles there if you're using it. You'll see there's loads of different recipes online. Elliot Coleman's the guy that made this famous in the northeast United States. But we find it, and people have all kinds of concoctions, but I don't. About 7 to 10 trays an hour. So it's pretty labor intensive as a process. The drawbacks of the signs and stuff is that, oftentimes, there's a good example. This tray, and they're heavy too, you can feel how heavy they are. They fall off the edges, things like this. But when we go out to plant, it's quite nice. You just go, you get yourself, it's like pizza. You just go and you just peeling them off, and away you go, dropping them out, and we're in. The benefits of soil blocks that a lot of people cite, the main one is air pruning. So you can see here, we've got these roots that have emerged, but as soon as they hit ambient air, they stop growing, and then when they transplant, so we don't get any type of root bound stress due to root bound activity. They get transplanted in the ground. The idea is that there's less transplant shock because they can immediately start that kind of initial root growth in the soil. So that's kind of the cited benefit most often. We also find that they tend to last longer as in blocks like this than in modules. They tend to have less stress. So this year, for example, we got behind and we had cabbage in these for like 2.5 months. But we still had an amazing crop. Whereas I don't know if I've ever
advise that though.
I don't know if I've advised it, but that just shows like.
I guess the soil's a lot more compacted.
Yeah, there's a lot more volume of soil. Exactly right. That's what we think too. There's a lot more volume of soil in these. Yeah. Than if you just kind of lightly, even when you try to press modules, you're just never going to get. That's one thing. They do tend to dry out. You got to be careful because as soon as they start to dry out, especially with this more than compost. Like if you ever use this as a substrate just for modules, like the main complaint of this compost is that it caps. Because it's so fine, it gets a cap if you let it dry out. It becomes hydrophobic, and these become quite hydrophobic quite quickly. So we do got to stay on the watering. Because as soon as they get rock hard, we basically have to put them in soaking trays and let them soak for 3 or 4 hours, and then put them back on the table.
So no sand in the mix.
No sand in the mix.
No,
Nope,
we've been using sand.
No vermiculite, no perlite. We're not supplementing with anything else.
No like seaweed meal or anything.
Nope, no meals. Yep, nothing. Yeah, we may do a feed if something's there for 2.5 months. We might come with a feed. We didn't this year, but we probably would have been advised to. We probably would have been smart, but we still got away with it. So everything in there, everything's propagated here. We sow everything from seed. So trying to think what we don't sow in there. Basically
peas and legumes.
Peas. Even peas we did in there this year. Easy to do. Seeds are sown in here, and then once they're sown and covered, they'll go straight into this hot box. This is about 70 trays. So 800 or so seedlings in a week. We will be pushing probably about 10,000 seedlings a week in peak like March. This will be full multiple times in a week, taken out, checked every day, morning and night by volunteers, and then taken straight into the propagation tunnel. We've also got, this is an automated seeder. You come in here and look, I'll just talk about it. This is from Hamilton Design. It's an old British family company, amazing group of engineers. And we've got donated this, but again, not set up for soil blocking. They need trays. There's sensors and things that happen with the trays, so you need module trays to use this type of system. But really cool group if you're ever interested. They have smaller ones that are like, they look like little handheld kind of hoovers, and you basically go pick up your seeds, vacuum, turn it off, drop, pick up, drop, and it's pretty cool for like 300-400 pounds. This is probably up towards 8-9K new, this machine. Hamilton Design. Yeah, they're in, I want to say Yorkshire, but I can't remember exactly. But yeah, small group, maybe like family business, 10 people employed. But they send all over the U.S. They send Asia, big international.
Have you adapted that for your soil blocks?
We tried.
No.
I had one of them come out here, and we were trying to figure out how we could do it. We made a. We were making all kinds of like prototypes of frames and things to try to put in there, but we just couldn't get it. So, and to be honest, it may be overkill for us and too much of a faff for volunteers to get set up and get precision and get good with it. So, watch the space. If you need a cedar, one may be going soon. Yeah, but we also have a Jane cedar. We'll pull that out. Some of you may be familiar with it. So yeah, I'll get out of the way and people come in here. But this is a Jang, if nobody's seen one of these, or a Pterodonus.
Beautiful, yeah.
It's a Korean manufactured, but distributed by TerraTech. And we do mostly transplant just to give things a real chance. So, yeah. That's a Jang,
do you use a pelleted carrot seed? Have you tried?
No, actually, yeah, no pelleted.
Do you know what roller you use for carrots?
Yeah, well, I'll show you later, yeah. We've got our spec sheet for rollers. So you apply, and then you have to basically say, then you have like a drop-down menu of reasons why you would use it. One could be, I can't find it as an organic produce. I can't find it supplied organically, or I have a specific disease or pest issue. No organic seed can do that. Or it could be, I have a market. I've been asked maybe to try it. I know I have a market for this type of thing. So 97% you have to do a calculation of our seed is certified organic, and then we do a few non-certified things. We trialed some winter radish this year. We did one aubergine variety that wasn't organic, and some of the salads are not organic. So yeah, most of the seed is certified organic. Probably mostly buying from Tamar, the usual suspects. Tamar, Real Seeds where it's organic. Seed co-op.
You having the issues getting seeds? This year.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Mainly just. Right. So it's really great for drying off or other projects. So think about that kind of system when you're doing your design. So this is quite nice. You're standing in the potato plot. Potatoes go into 2 years of green manures. So they follow 2 years of green manures at the bottom. And then, so there's a 2-year break in the 8-year rotation. Following potatoes is brassicas, and then an allium, squash, brassica, allium, back to green manure. So that's our 8-way rotation. The green manures, we'll have a look at them. We'll talk about it when we walk down there. Our biggest issue with this area is stone. Alright, we're on a bit of a stony outcrop. It is still quite good. It's we're clay loam, 5.5 to 6.2% organic matter in each of these plots. And the tunnels were like 12, 13%, because that's been 15 years of compost application basically. And then in the bottom field, because that's basically the draining point, and a lot of the silt that's pushed down to the bottom, it's more like 8, 9%. So we have quite varying organic matter. You can see why. It's quite stony. And then yeah, we're up higher, it's all going to run away. Lower pH out here, we're somewhere between 6.5 and 6.8. Tunnels are like 7.2 mostly, and about 7 in little deer, that bottom plot. So that's potatoes. Our other biggest issue out here, besides stones, is couch grass. So we've really struggled. This whole field is basically littered with couch grass. Hence, we've taken some rather dire, I think, interventions. So we're using Mypex a bit more. That's one thing that we've used. I'll show you down further. There's a biostarch. It's a non-GMO biofilm, non-GMO cornstarch biofilm that we've used. But we're gonna get even more radical. We're giving the damn thing up. Just get rid of it. So we've got the luxury, right, of having an organic dairy farmer right next door. So Richard is gonna take this field back. We're gonna put it into 4 years of pasture and grazing, and we're gonna get the field at the bottom, and then because that's you can look down there. Richard essentially, these backfields used to be only for silage because he didn't have a way to get his cows up there. You know, all the rest of the farms, 200 acres, was under grazing, right? But now he's put a track in, so he scooped off some topsoil, put it on that field and plowed it, and then rolled it, and you can see there's not a speck of couch grass in that whole field. So we're not going to fight it, basically. You know, I think it's really important to think about that. Like, try to use a system that's available to you. So we're just going to say, right, give it away 4 years. Richard, do your thing with the cows, and then we'll see if we want to flip that back. And that also means that we could potentially drop the green manure break, because every 4 years we'll just be flipping fields, and I'll have a 4-year break. And even when we go back, we wouldn't even get to like the same 6-way rotation within that fourth. So that's something we're considering now, is doing that. Well, we're going to do it.
Weeds and like fertility, isn't it?
Yeah, so we got a weed and fertility boost. Yeah.
So you lose your current sort of thing. You lose your current bushes and stuff like that.
Yeah, so we'll just let fence this, yeah. So the perennial section will stay, and then he can have the rest, and we'll just flip it back in 4 years. Because it's pretty intense. I'm talking like thick as your pinky, couch grass.
Has anyone seen that? It goes through the potato.
It's a real issue. So, you know, and if you get behind on couch, story's over. So no, because Richard's a selfish bastard. No, he's not. But basically, he uses it. So he's got slurry collection, and he'll spray a slurry, and then his farmyard manure he'll compost down, and he throws that as well. He spreads that, so he keeps all of his fertility. Yeah, I've asked the questions multiple times. So for us, we in the past have bought in horse manure, but I hate it. I really hate horse manure.
Are there any benefits to that as well?
Well, it is a certification hurdle. So it'd be great with Richard because he's already certified. I wouldn't have to do anything as an input. If I go off farm, if it's another certified farm, pretty easy. Doesn't matter if it's dairy or horse. If I go off farm and they're not certified, they have to sign a declaration of non-GMO feed, and that's pretty much the main constraint. So that's why oftentimes you end up with horse farms, because a lot of the dairy farms are using GMO feed or pig, and there's loads of horse farms. So they literally want to give it away. So we just get charged carriage, but I don't think it's the best product, mainly because it's not a ruminant system. So you will get weed seed in the manure still, and you don't have full control over what has been applied to the pasture that they've eaten. So whether that's amino periods or whatever it is, that could potentially have further knock-on effects. It's just always really kind of, it just makes me uneasy not knowing that I have somewhat control over that system. So we have done it in the past. The Soil Association requires a 3-month processing on period. So I can't buy it and apply it. It has to be on farm and here for 3 months. If it's not already sat for 6 months. If it's not sat for 6 months at their farm, I have to do 6 months plus 3 months composting on processing. So those are the requirements on the Soil Association. So we really want to try to get a lot better with green manures. Undersowing of green manures, winter sowing of green manures, and then establishing if we're going to do a 2-year lay, which we've done now for a few years, or just using this flip-flop with pasture for 4 years back to production. So, yeah.
Have you not done any microbial feed for the animal death? We're working now with manure from one cow. They're saying
per hectare. Amazingly enough, we're not in an MVZ, even though we got crazy rainfall. Under Soil Association, the standard is 170 kilograms per hectare of nitrogen. 170 kilograms of nitrogen per hectare is your limit. We're doing assuming the standard for horse farming manure is like 6 to 7 kilograms per hectare of nitrogen, and we're applying like less than 20 tons a hectare, like maybe 15 to 18 tons a hectare. So we're nowhere near any limits of nitrogen application. by Ark Agriculture, ARK. We like them. They're about £1.10 each. We like them because they got the side handle, and the woven material is a lot better. You'll see some that we have that only have the bottom handle. So they come as a kit with the cable and bag for £1.10, and then we get washed pea gravel. Just bulk bags of washed pea gravel for that. So all told, it's probably like £1.40 per bag. ARK Agriculture, that's who we use for these bags. Yeah.
And do you dig the edges as well?
No, we don't do the edges at the moment. No, we just throw bags down. Ground staples are a waste of time. Like up here, see you. They'll be over in the farm shop in a couple days. So we bag down until we get probably mid-season establishment, and then we'll take them off if we need to, and the plants do the rest. So yeah, we do a lot of bag moving. The MyPex, I do my own throw on MyPex here and there. Yeah, it's got its benefits. I mean, it's done a good job. It got us a crop this year. I mean, for us, it was about trying to get a crop away from the cooch. So that field was a potato field. So we thought we could ridge it enough that it would control the cooch, but even that wasn't really effective. So we've used the MyPex here. Sorry, this is our brassica plot. So we did Romanesco. We've got some red cabbage, purple sprouting at the black. We did cauliflower, 2 types of cauliflower. And then we don't do broccoli heads, we do green sprouting broccoli, and we cut all the florets, and then we bunch that or bag that. And that's good because it will probably give us like 6 cuts, 7 cuts in a season. We'll just keep walking down. So long by 28 meters wide. You get 18 beds in a plot. Currently we're on the tractor, so it's 35 centimeter pathways. It's 155 centimeter centers. That's really tight, especially when you have 50 to 60 people working in the field in a week. So that's another reason we want to move to BCS and kind of widen the pathways and make it a bit easier to manage beds.
So when you say 50, 60 people a week, that's not, I mean, that's
not on a day.
One day.
No, in a day
like,
we may get 10 to 15 a day.
Right.
Yeah. So, this was our squash plot. We grew spaghetti squash, delicata squash, acorn squash, and then a Hokkaido and a blue Hubbard. Out of this plot and half of another plot, we got 3,500 squash. It was a really amazing year up here for squash. Probably the best in a long time. So it was great. But this is Arwen has blown off all the MyPex, which is fine because we're going to take it off anyway. So it did us a hand. But you can see some of the control. But I mean, there's cooch roots still all through this. Because all it needs is one little spot to come up. So. But our thinking was, before we thought about doing the berry cow rotation, was if we use this MyPex enough through the rotation, over 4 or 5 years, we could probably maybe get control of it. All right, was the idea. And then we can move off the MyPex. But we'll see.
And where do you store your squash?
Squash! We have that big chiller up there. So we cure in the back of the polytunnel for 2 or 3 weeks. And then they go up. Above the chiller, we've got a big storage space. Basically, it's like 9 degrees, dark, no pests, no rats, no mice, good ventilation. Yeah, only issue is it's upstairs. That's the pain. With squash, it's a real pain. Yeah. So this is a breeding project down south in Sussex. Tozer Seeds is a UK breeder. They bred kale and Brussels sprout cross. This is a kaleette. You may have started to see these more in the market. It looks like a little Brussels sprout, but is an open cabbage kind of habit. Really nice. We bought some in last year, right before Christmas, from another organic grower, and our crop showers really like them. So we said, right, well, we'll have a go at growing them ourselves. So we applied for a derogation and got a bit of seed, because Tozer's the only, they're the owners of it, so you can't really find it anywhere else except from them. King Seeds is their distributor, their bespoke distributor for it. But yeah, so it's done really well. You can see we've had a really good stand of that, and they're really, really nice. They're nice because they have different flavor, and then they hold kind of, you can sauce them and stuff like that. If you're a chef or cuisine inclined, I tend to find a lot of people are really liking these over Brussels sprouts. But there is no organically available grown seed. It is an F1 hybrid, so we wouldn't be saving the seed either. So technically, any seed we do save is immediately organic because we're under an organic holding. So any seed we save a lot of chili and pepper seed and tomato seed. So that's our own seed, but it is an organic certified seed. Yeah. This is their 2-year herbal lay. It's 2 types of ryegrass, one organic, one non-organic, and then a organic red clover and an organic white clover. If you want to know the varieties, I can get you the seed label and we can look at it. So we did this in mid-May, sowed this, and I like to look at it. We didn't really manage it well. We only cut it once. Ideally, we would probably cut it 2 or 3 times. But I like to look at it now. It's kind of hard in the sun, but we can walk down there and look. But basically, where this stake is, and like behind you, you can see there's still. We did it for a couple reasons. 1, soil fertility. 2, texture. 3, weed control. A competition species for cooch, basically. And so it has done a relatively good job. And how do you know? If you look down at the bottom, that's like our boundary space. And that we didn't plant in green manure, and it's essentially a nice stand of cooch straw. Where you can see intermittent cooch in here, but the clover and the rye in particular have done a really good job of competing that. So yeah, this is just one we bought off the shelf. There's all kinds of different mixes and things, but this is a good two-year product. We use other mixes for in season or in winter, just over winter green manure mixes. So yeah, that's that. That's about it. Shall we? So we basically, that's kind of the run of the farm, really. But we can kind of go down. You can either walk back that way if you want, or we can walk down along the pedestrian path, the gravel path, and up. Might be a bit easier.
What's the acreage?
Look at next year's field. What's that?
What's the acreage again? I missed that.
6 acres, 2.5 hectares, with this space, and then kind of over there with the polytunnels and that little market garden. And that includes the facilities. So under cultivation is about just over a hectare of cultivated ground.
Right.
Yeah, 2.5 acres, 3 acres, just about. We've got about 1,500 square meters of protected growing space in the tunnels. 1,200, 1,500 meters. Yeah.
1,500
square meters. Yeah. Over in Little Deer. Yeah, that's the 5-way rotation.
Oh, okay.
So we do that. We treat that differently as more of an intensive market garden, and this is more. So basically, out here is long season crops, and we wouldn't flip any of these. So we wouldn't succession plant any of these. We do 1 crop out here a season, whereas in the market garden we might do 2 or 3 crops in a calendar year, depending how on it we are.
How many BCSs are you planning to run?
Just 1.
1.
To start, yeah. 1 to start. We'll see. Could be $1 million question, but yeah, 1 at the moment.
So you've got fruit. I think you've got a few fruit trees around. You've got fruit trees around the place. Is that something that it's just staying the same? You're not doing as much of, or is it a growth area? Or?
We've got over 100 different heritage varieties of fruit that are espaliered on the fence lines. And there's the South Lakeland Organic Group that come and help us do summer pruning and then do some apple ID and things like that. It's just more of a kind of hobby project, I would say. Every year, this year we got about 130 kilos of apples, and they went straight into the crop shares. So yeah, no, it's not like a commercial pursuit at all. More just a demonstration. Yeah, usually we do a grafting day, exactly. So volunteers can get involved in grafting. We invite public in to do grafting. Yeah, but we're not like propagating any rootstock or anything like that, or scions, cuttings from it yet. But if you're interested, we could. We've got a lot of genetic material.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Managed by National Trust. The rest of the farmland is managed by ourselves, and it's all in organic certification status. But yeah, it's public access.
The first day that I've been in the kitchen as well. It's really great.
Thanks for your help, by the way, in the kitchen.
Not hard.
That's awesome. Are you here? Is this your local?
So I volunteer on Wednesday, but it's like a sign-up.
Oh, right.
One of the volunteers.
Yeah.
But I really want to grow
yeah, nice. Interesting way in.
It's a strange way in. It seems to be the way in that I've got into many different